Let us begin our journey through algebra, one of the most important topics of mathematics, which allows us to go into higher and other diverse topics in mathematics. So, we are familiar with multiplication tables. So, for example, the multiplication table of 4 is this. Now, in the above table, the first number is the same in each row. Yes, we call such a number which does not change a constant. The second and third columns of numbers vary as we go and visit each of the rows. Such numbers which change are called variables. Here, the second column of numbers has a different meaning than the third column of numbers. So what is the difference? This is just a sequence of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. And this is the multiple of 4. So multiple of how many times? That is given by the second column of numbers. So we use distinct alphabets to represent them. So let us name the second column of numbers as X. We can use any alphabet, but generally in algebra, we tend to use more often X and Y. So let us name the second column of numbers as X and the third column of numbers as Y. So X and Y have different values depending on the row. We can write these 10 lines in short as 4 times X equal to Y, or shorter still as 4x equal to Y, where the multiplication sign between 4 and x is understood. Or to make it explicit, we can also write it as 4 dot x equal to y, where dot also means the multiplication sign. Since y represents the result, it is usually written on the left hand side of the equal to sign. So we would normally write it as y is equal to 4 times x, or y is equal to 4 dot x, or y is equal to 4x. Now, if x equal to 2, what do? We substitute 2 for x. We get 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. Again, if x equal to 8, y is equal to 4 times 8, which is equal to 32. So by choosing different values of x and substituting for x in the equation, we get the rows of the table. Now, this is called an equation that describes all the rows of the table, and it is called equation because of the equals sign. X is called the independent variable because we are free to choose its value. But y always depends on the value of x, because once you have chosen the value of x, y's value is already determined. So it is called the dependent variable. The 4 in 4x is called the coefficient of x. In principle, x can take any value. To make it more meaningful, we restrict the values it may take, or we may choose. Because remember, it can be x, we can choose numbers like this. We can choose lower numbers, that is negative numbers. We can choose 0. We can use numbers greater than 10 for x. We could also choose fractions. So that is not very clear based on this equation, y is equal to 4x. So we have to restrict it. And we should be able to explicitly mention that. So we say x is between 1 to 10. That is 1 is less than or equal to x, which is in turn less than or equal to 10. This is called the domain of x. So here what I have done by putting this condition, I have said that these numbers can be 1 to 10, but it could still be fractions, right? So since we are not interested in x being fractions, we say x is in the set of natural numbers. So the set of values that y may end up with after plugging in the values of x is called range of the equation. So in summary, y is equal to 4x is called an equation. X is the independent variable. Y is the dependent variable because it depends on x. 4 is the coefficient of x. Condition is 1 less than or equal to x, which is in turn less than or equal to 10. And x is in the set of natural numbers. So now I have put the complete condition in one statement. So the domain would be what based on this condition? Domain is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, what are the possible values of y based on the domain? It is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So this is the domain, this is the range. So arithmetic deals with specific numbers, whereas algebra uses symbols to describe general numerical relationships. Algebra allows us to describe many numerical relationships using a single equation. Algebra is quite powerful. So that was introduction of algebra or introduction to algebra. That's it for now.